No one can make you lose your calm unless you give them that power. Pause for a second. Really look at that. You are not offended. You allow yourself to be offended. You are not hurt by what they said. You choose to believe it. You did not lose control. You let go of the wheel of your own emotions. I am not saying this to blame you. I am saying this to empower you. Because here is a truth I have learned after hundreds of courtroom battles, after thousands of confrontations where people screamed, snapped, blamed, and broke down, all because of one thing. They never learned how to hold on to their peace. We live in a world where anyone can reach you with words, with attitude, with storms of emotion they have never been taught to manage. But you can learn, you can train, not to become numb, but so you are not pulled into every fight someone throws at your feet, not to become passive or weak, but strong enough that you do not need to react. Peace is not something people give you. It is a possession you either protect or lose every single day. And today, I am not here to teach you how to win an argument. I am here to show you how to walk away from one. With your dignity intact, your calm, unshaken, and a heart untouched by the anger someone else tried to plant in yours. Because in the end, you are not rewarded for winning. You are set free by choosing not to play. You want to know when your life truly starts to change. It is the moment you stop hoping others will behave so you can stay calm. When you realize this, peace is not a reward for how kind people are to you. It is an inner discipline you must hold on to, even when everything around you is in chaos. Do not get me wrong. I am not telling you to be so tough that nothing touches you. I am talking about a different kind of strength. The strength of non-reaction. Not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough not to pay the price for someone else's poor behavior. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A coworker throws a passive comment. A stranger online attacks you just for showing up. The situation itself does not harm you. Your reaction decides whether you get hurt or not. I know it is easy to say, just let it go, but it is hard to live that way. Still, I have seen too many people trap themselves, not because of their circumstances, but because they gave away emotional control. They let one comment ruin their day. One glance shake their self-worth. One bad attitude throw their mind into chaos. And I want to say this with all sincerity. You can say no. You do not need to react. You do not need to explain. You do not need to teach anyone a lesson. You just need to stay rooted. When you understand that people are rude because they are hurting, you stop taking it personally. When you realize that silence can be wisdom, you stop throwing your words into empty spaces. And when you know your worth does not rise or fall based on someone's tone or opinion, you become unshakable. We cannot control the world, but you can absolutely control what gets access to your peace. And here's the first step. Stop waiting for others to take responsibility for something you must protect. Not your partner, not your boss, not your parents, your kids, or society. Your peace is your inner work. It is discipline. It is responsibility. Because if you hand over that control to others, you will spend every day needing permission to feel okay. But if you hold it close, you can stand in the middle of the storm without losing yourself. Because real peace does not need conditions. It only needs one decision, yours. When someone says something that bothers you, you have two choices. You can react or you can respond. One is instinct, fast, forceful, impulsive. The other is strength, slow, intentional, and deeply powerful. I have seen so many people lose relationships, not because they did not love enough, but because they lacked space between emotion and action. They got hurt and they reacted, got criticized and reacted, got misunderstood and reacted. And every reaction, whether it is a word, a gesture, or just a cold stare, has one thing in common. It takes away your power. We think we have to strike back to protect our worth. But the truth is, the more you react out of impulse, the more you lose that worth. True value does not need to shout. It does not need to defend itself with anger. True value stands firm without doing anything. Sometimes silence at the right moment carries more weight than the loudest comeback. I learned this inside the courtroom. The ones who win are not the ones who speak the most, shout the loudest, or throw their hands around. They are the ones who pause, observe, and choose to respond with words or with purposeful silence. And this is where your power begins. In the pause, that tiny moment between feeling triggered and doing something to push back, in that pause, you can do one small thing that changes everything. Breathe. One deep breath. One moment to ask yourself, am I reacting or am I choosing? That question can save a conversation from becoming a conflict. It can save a relationship from breaking apart. It can save you from carrying regret for days, months, even years. I am not telling you to suppress your feelings. I am talking about a kind of inner power where you are no longer a victim of your first emotion, where you respond, not react. And when you master that, you become the kind of person who cannot be easily manipulated by careless words, who does not get pulled into invisible power games, who does not sink because of someone else's negativity. Pause for a second and think about the last time you reacted instead of responding. Did you feel yourself being pulled away from the person you want to become? And tell me this, what usually makes you lose control the most? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear from you. Do you know one of the most wasted things we do every single day? Letting our emotions drift according to other people's behavior. A frown from someone makes us feel like we did something wrong. A passive-aggressive comment ruins our whole morning. An ungraceful critique from a boss makes us forget how hard we have been trying all this time. And if you do not catch this in time, you will spend your whole life trying to heal from wounds that were never yours to carry, simply because you allowed others to control your inner world. Here's the truth. Someone's attitude does not reflect your value. It reflects their condition. A person acting harshly is not proof that you are bad. It may mean they are struggling with something you cannot see. A cold silence is not a sign that you are not attractive. It may mean they never learned how to connect in a healthy way. And when someone attacks you, it does not always mean you are wrong. Sometimes it means you triggered an insecurity they are afraid to face. And this is the choice you must memorize. You do not have to accept everything people bring to you. Your emotions are the door to your home. No one walks in unless you open it. Hurt does not come just from actions. It comes from how long we let those actions live inside us. It comes from replaying their words, reimagining their tone, reliving the moment like it was a final judgment on our worth. But you are not a victim. You are the one who can rise and say, I see that, but I will not hold on to it. You get to decide who gets to influence your mind and your heartbeat. Not everyone is worthy. Not everyone is kind enough to enter that sacred space. Not everyone deserves a pass into your peace. You are not a wall, but you do get to be the gatekeeper. They may knock with criticism, with silence, with subtle manipulation, but you choose who gets in and who stays out. And some people, some stories, some glances are best left at the door. I am not telling you to become numb. I am not telling you to shut down or grow cold. I am talking about knowing the line between compassion and self-harm, between understanding others and giving them the power to break you. Do not let every voice reach the core of your value. You were not designed to live on emotional autopilot, reacting to every word, doubting yourself with every action around you. You were built to choose, to lead, to walk into this life with the quiet strength that says, I can hold myself together even when others fall apart. So next time you are disrespected, misunderstood, or talked about behind your back, do not react too quickly. Do not tense up trying to prove anything. Do not let your being get pulled into the storm someone else is creating inside them. Remember this, Every time you choose not to react, you are protecting your right to lead your own life. And no one can take that from you unless you let go. Silence is one of the most misunderstood elements in communication. People think you are silent because you do not know how to respond. They assume silence means you have no argument. Some even believe silence equals weakness, that you are giving up. But those who truly understand the power of silence do not need to be understood because they know reacting is easy. Silence takes strength. And in many situations, reaction is instinct, but silence is mastery. Silence is not indifference. It is a choice not to get pulled into someone else's emotional game, a choice to protect your precious energy instead of pouring it into arguments that go nowhere, a choice to step out of chaos and into clarity, calm, and self-control. I have stood in courtroom battles tense enough to snap steel where one side lost control, shouted, threatened, insulted. Do you know what gave me the upper hand? Not yelling louder, but refusing to sink into the same mud. I stayed calm. I stayed silent at the right moments. And that silence spoke louder than anything else. Because when people lose control, they want you to lose it too. When they attack, they hope you will react. Why? So they can justify their behavior. But if you do not react, if you hold your ground, if you refuse to play the game of tit for tat, they lose control of the narrative. They are forced to face themselves. Timely silence is a high-level form of power. It does not need volume. It does not seek validation. It simply requires one thing, knowing what is worth your voice and what is not worth your peace. Here is what I want you to remember. You do not have to react to prove yourself. The louder someone pushes, provokes, or screams to drag you in, the clearer it becomes they do not have the strength to manage themselves. Do not partner with chaos. Do not respond as if they deserve your energy. Because the truth is, no one deserves control over your mind except you have the right to step away, to remain silent, to let a situation pass without leaving a trace inside you, not because you are avoiding it, but because you are prioritizing something greater, your calm, your emotional strength. And you will see, when your silence comes from grounded clarity and inner strength, even the loudest people fall quiet. Coming up next, we will talk about the pause, that sacred space where real growth begins, not when you react, but when you wait, reflect, and choose a response from a higher place. Most people live in reaction mode. Someone says something harsh, they fire back. Someone shows attitude, they go on defense. One little criticism can spiral them into emotional chaos. Why? Because they have no pause, no inner space between the trigger and the response. Everything just snaps, explodes, and leaves consequences they can't control. But you are different. You are learning to be different. You are learning not to live by instinct, but by choice. And every wise choice starts with a pause, even just 1 second. The pause is when you take a deep breath while someone tries to provoke you. When you hear something offensive and choose not to respond immediately, when you stay silent, not because you are weak, but because you are fully in control. You are not reacting out of emotion, but responding with calm that has been trained over time. I did not learn this from books. I learned it from moments when I almost lost control in the courtroom. From the times my heart raced, my blood boiled, and I knew one wrong word, and I would lose my position. So I chose the pause. I learned how to breathe, how to stay within myself. And I found power there. Not in what I said, but in what I held back. You can train this every day. When someone judges you, do not respond right away. When someone speaks falsely about you, do not rush to explain. When the heat rises, do not add fuel. You can pause, breathe, check in with yourself. Ask, what do I really want from this situation? Am I being led by wisdom or pulled by emotion. The pause helps you take the wheel back. It is the short moment between your old patterns and the person you are trying to become. And every time you choose to pause instead of react, you are letting your better self step forward. I am not saying this is easy. It takes practice. It takes deep awareness. It takes being willing to sit in temporary discomfort in exchange for long-term self-mastery. But I promise, this is one of the most valuable skills you can build, because it does not just save you from anger. It saves you from the most dangerous version of yourself, the impulsive, out of control, easily shaken version. The pause is where you do not get swept away. You stand, you lead, you choose. And in a world where everyone is ready to explode over one sentence, the one who can pause is the one who holds the real power. Coming up next, I will talk about something you do not owe anyone. Not your anger, not your explanations, not the burden of making them feel okay. You do not have to hand out your energy to those who do not value it. They are upset. They jab. They say things that make no sense. And what is the first thing you want to do? Respond, explain, defend, prove that you are right and they are wrong. But wait, pause for a beat. Remember this. You do not owe anyone your anger. You do not owe anyone an emotional reaction if it costs you your peace. Someone cuts you off in a meeting, you do not need to raise your voice to reclaim space. A family member throws shade at the dinner table, you do not have to strike back to prove your self-worth. Someone attacks you online, you do not need to enter that battlefield just to protect an image. Because reacting is how you hand over your power. And that power, if left unchecked, will destroy you long before it changes them. I used to think, if I stay silent, they will think I am weak. But then I realized silence, when you have every reason to react, is true power. Not power through manipulation, but power through mastery. Because someone who is truly strong does not need to shout to prove they're okay. They know they are okay. And that is enough. I am not saying you have to swallow your anger or stay silent forever. But understand this. Every time you react on impulse, you are trading something far more valuable than being right. You are trading your self-control. And your entire life is shaped by those small moments. One time you stayed calm. One time you did not clap back. One time you chose peace over proving a point. Because sometimes reacting is not resolution. It is a trap pulling you into a never-ending spiral. The more you talk, the more they twist. The more you try to prove, the more they distort. And suddenly your emotions are no longer yours. They are being driven by someone else. So I choose differently. I choose not to speak every time I could. I choose not to explain myself to people who do not want to understand. I choose not to lose myself just to win a moment filled with rage. Because what they say is about them. But how I respond will always say who I am. Choose to save your energy for what truly matters. Choose silence, not from fear, but from growth. Choose not to react, not because you do not care, but because you know not every battle is worth your words, your peace, or the strength it took you years to build. And if someone asks, why did you not say anything? I will simply smile and say, because I know what matters more. Coming up next, I will talk about the power of separating yourself from chaos, not by running away, but by standing grounded within it. This is not numbness. It is clarity. There are days when you walk into a room and feel it immediately. Something is off. No one says a word, but the tension is thick. The energy is heavy. Words are sharp. Eyes are cold. You did nothing wrong, but somehow you get pulled into someone else's emotions. And before you know it, you are tense, defensive, maybe even reacting back because you think, I cannot let them disrespect me. But here is the truth I need you to hear. Not every energy is worth merging into. Not every battle is worth standing in. I learned this the hard way. When you live in reaction, your peace belongs to your surroundings. But when you learn to step back, to stay separate, to not absorb someone else's chaos, you begin to reclaim your inner authority. This is not indifference. This is clarity. They are angry. You do not have to get angry. They blame and spin. You do not have to chase and fix. They speak harshly. You do not have to speak the same language. You only need one thing to be rooted like a tree in a storm, because you did not come here to control the wind. You came here to hold your ground. Separating yourself from chaos means you hear what they say, but you do not let it pierce your mind. You see the manipulation, but you respond with wisdom, not wounds. You understand? Not everything is yours to carry. Not every pain is yours to heal. Not every noise deserves your reply. Because if you try to hold it all, you will burn out and no one will call it heroic. You are not the therapist for every unhealed soul. You are not the dumpster for unresolved emotions. And you do not have to become a victim just to play the good guy in an unfair story. Clarity is not walking away from people. It is knowing where you belong and when to stay rooted in yourself. I always say, peace does not come from forcing others to change. Peace comes from being grounded enough not to be pulled in. When you can stand in the middle of chaos and still remain clear, you are not just strong, you become a light. And sometimes the quieter you are, the more people are forced to listen, not because you shout, but because your energy is too clear to ignore. As coming up next, I will share with you the power of the pause, not as a place to hide, but as the space to rebuild yourself before answering the world. Have you ever realized most of the trouble in your life happened simply because you did not stop? A careless word, a rushed message, a sharp look filled with anger. All of it comes from reacting too fast. No one teaches us this, but maturity is not about being quick to react. It is about knowing when to pause. I used to be the one who reacted fast. Say something I did not like, I would snap right back. It felt like I had to speak up, had to defend myself, had to make it clear I would not be messed with. But after years of litigation, I learned something else. The real winner in a conversation is not the one who speaks the most. It is the one who knows when to stay silent. Because the pause, even just 2 seconds, can change the entire game. It is the moment you step away from instinct and into intention. The space where emotion stops driving and clarity takes the wheel. The pause helps you tell the difference between what needs to be said and what is just impulse, between truth and pride, between a choice that helps you grow and a reaction that will lead to regret. Some people say, I just cannot pause. I have a temper. Listen, no one is born knowing how to regulate emotion. This is a skill, and skills can be trained. The pause is a mental muscle. You cannot use it if you never train it. And I mean this. The better you are at pausing, the stronger you are, because the weak get swept away by every fleeting feeling. The strong can hold steady in the middle of what they cannot control. And the pause is not just about calming down. It is your steering wheel. It is your internal map. It is the place where you ask yourself, what outcome do I really want? Will my reaction get me there? A deep breath, a slow blink, a small step back. That is all it takes to redirect a conversation, to save a relationship, to protect your self-respect. You do not have to react to everything. You are allowed to choose. Not every silence is surrender. Some pauses are a clear declaration. I could react, but I choose not to. That is when no one out there controls you, because someone within you is already leading. And coming up next, I will talk about this, why timely silence is a superpower and how to use it not as a mask, but as a sword. Someone once said to me, "You stay silent too much. People will think you are weak." I smiled because I know something they do not. Silence, when chosen at the right moment, has never been a sign of weakness. It is proof of deep inner mastery. Most people believe strength belongs to the loudest voice in the room, but true power lies with the one who can control the voice inside. Stillness is not avoidance. It is a decision. It is when you stand in the middle of tension, and instead of raising your voice, you take a deep breath and refuse to be driven by someone else's emotions. As a trial lawyer, I have seen people lose their ground in their own anger, not because their opponent was stronger, but because they were not steady enough to stay silent when it mattered. In a tense room, everyone scrambles to defend their ego, but the one who stays quiet, the one who waits, the one who speaks with timing, that is the one who leads. Silence holds a strange kind of power. It makes people hesitate. It disrupts the reflex of conflict. When they expect you to react and you don't, it creates a space they cannot handle. And in that space, you hold the control. Sometimes saying nothing is the loudest thing you can say. You do not have to fight every lie. You do not have to win every small debate, because the mature do not live to prove themselves to the world. They live in honesty with themselves. And if you are seeking peace, you must learn how to be silent. As an act of strength, not surrender, silence is not running. It is a strategy. It is how you protect your energy, how you preserve your worth, how you shield your power from battles that do not deserve your reaction. Try it once. Next time someone pushes you to the edge, do not react. Pause. Breathe. Look at them. No anger, no judgment, no pull. And you will see something powerful. They lose their grip, not because you won, but because you did not play. You were not made to react to everything. You were made to choose. And when your choice comes from quiet strength, you become unshakable. And coming up next, I will talk to you about something even deeper. When someone hurts you, not just irritation, but a deep cut, what happens next? We'll decide who holds the real power, you or the pain. You know, I do not expect you to hear this series and suddenly change overnight, because I understand forgiveness is not a feeling. It is a choice you may have to make again and again, every morning, every time someone hurts you, every time the past tries to pull you back into old pain. But if today, you can start with one small decision. I will no longer let others control my emotions. Then you have already taken a big step forward. No one can live your life for you. No one can hold your peace for you. But I believe you are strong enough to claim it for yourself. Not through coldness, but through awareness. Not by forgetting, but by refusing to let the past define you. And every time you choose silence over reaction, understanding over resentment, letting go over holding on, you are practicing something very few people dare to do, mastering yourself. Thank you for staying with me this far. It tells me you are serious about your peace. And I am grateful to walk with you, even if it is just through a screen. Wherever you are, whatever you are walking through, I hope you always carry a quiet space inside you, so that when the world feels loud, you can return to that place and say, here, I am still safe. Take care of your health. Keep your heart clean. and hold on to your peace because you deserve it every single day.